This video is for solving equations using the quadratic formula. So before we get started, I just wanted to talk about what kind of equations I'm talking about. I'm talking about equations such as ax squared plus bx plus c, and it is set equal to 0. So in this case, a can be any number. It can be a fraction, positive or negative, and b can also be a number including 0, and c can also be a number including 0, any number. So let's start. So whenever I'm doing this, I'm trying to find what the value of x can be to make this equation true, and I can use something called the quadratic formula. So in this case, I'm trying to find the values of x, and so I use the following formula, and this is something that you'll have to remember. I take the opposite, or the negative, of b plus or minus the square root of b squared, so the value of b squared, minus 4 times a times c, and that whole quantity divided by 2 times a. So let's start with the problem. And let's start with our first problem. It's going to be 2x squared plus 5x plus 2 is equal to 0. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and identify my variables, a, b, and c. So a is equal to 2, b is equal to 5, there's a positive 5. If it was a subtraction sign here, it would be negative 5. And c is equal to 2. So I begin by plugging in, and I take the opposite of b, which is going to be negative 5, and I do plus or minus, and then b squared is going to be 25, minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is 2, and divided by 2 times 2, because a is 2. So I just start simplifying. So I have negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 25 minus 16, because 4 times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, divided by 4. So I continue to simplify, and I have negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 9 divided by 4. Continue to simplify, and so I have x is equal to minus 5 plus or minus 3 divided by 4. So I have two different scenarios. My first x is going to be negative 5 plus 3 divided by 4. And my second scenario is going to be x is equal to negative 5 minus 3 divided by 4. So in this case, it's going to be x is equal to negative 2 divided by 4, so x is equal to negative 1/2. And then in this case over here, x is equal to negative 8 divided by 4, so x is going to equal negative 2. So my solution would look like x can be equal to either negative 1/2, and x can be equal to negative 2. So that's solving that kind of equation that has a variable a, b, and c. Now there's another type of equation that you will sometimes see, and this is the equation x squared minus 18 is equal to 0. So in this case, my a is equal to 1. My b is equal to 0 because there's no bx, so 0 times x is nothing, or 0. And then my c is going to be equal to negative 18 because it's minus 18. So I follow the same procedure, and I have x is equal to 0 plus or minus the square root of 0 squared minus 4 times a times c, and then divided by 2 times 1, 2a. So I just begin simplifying, and it's going to be plus or minus, and then I just have 18 times 4, which is going to be 72, I do believe. And
okay, I just want to shoot number.
Divided by 2. And then I'm going to simplify that, and if you notice, 72 is not a perfect square, so I'm going to do my factor tree, and I'm going to do 9 times 8, and then I'm going to do 3 times 3, and then 2 times 4, and then 2 times 2. So I've got a couple pairs of 3s, a couple pairs of 2s. I'm going to multiply and pull it out, so x is equal to plus or minus 6, because I multiply 3 times 2, and I'm left underneath the square root with 2, and that's divided by 2. So again, plus or minus, 6 divided by 2 is 3 times the square root of 2, and that is your final answer.